Hello and welcome back to Supposedly Fun. My name is Greg and I am here today to do a Friday Reads video where I wrap up the week in reading and talk about any exciting bookish things that have been going on. You may be able to tell, but I have a cold, so that is a not so fun thing that has been going on this week. I have taken a couple of different COVID tests. They've all been negative, so at least I got that going for me. But I have this congestion and it's miserable, and yeah, it just hasn't been fun all week. So it's been a tough reading week. I did finish one book, unfortunately, because I hated it. But we'll get to that in the actual Friday Reads portion of the video. I also made a lot of progress reading another, and we're almost done with it. Just a couple of things that I want to mention. First, the number one thing I wanted to mention is that Banned Books Week is coming. It is October 1st through 7th. And this is exciting because it does feel like people are really mobilizing against book bans, but at the same time, it's disheartening that there are so many book bans. I'm looking at this email I got from the Washington Post. PEN America reports a 33% spike in public school book bans during the 2022 to 2023 school year compared to the previous year. Since January, the ALA says that 1,915 titles have been challenged, a 20% increase from the same period last year. At this rate, the United States is certain to set another record for crimes against free thought. That is from Ron Charles. If you don't subscribe to his weekly newsletter, I would recommend that you do it. These numbers are scary, but it is heartening that a lot of people are mobilizing against them. And if you are curious, according to this website that I will link down below, the top 13 most challenged books of 2022, number one is, of course, Genderqueer by Maya Kobabe. That has been one of the most challenged books consistently over the recent years. Then All Boys Aren't Blue by George M. Johnson, The Bluest Eye by Toni Morrison, Flamer by Mike Corrado, Looking for Alaska by John Green, The Perks of Being a Wallflower by Stephen Chbosky, Lawn Boy by Jonathan Evison, The Absolutely True Diary of a Part-Time Indian by Sherman Alexie, Out of Darkness by Ashley Hope Perez, and then a tie in 10th place for A Court of Mist and Fury by Sarah J. Maas, and Crank by Ellen Hopkins. Another tie for Me and Earl and the Dying Girl by Jesse Andrews. And finally, another also tied for 10th is This Book is Gay by Juno Dawson. So if you would like to participate in Banned Books Week, read a banned book, purchase a banned book, share a banned book, or donate it to an organization that can help get it into the hands of someone else. Look for organizations that are going to be helping and see if maybe you can donate. Whatever you can do, even if you just read a banned book and talk about it and help find other people find it, that is something. So I've read a bunch of these books on this list, and a lot of them are really good. The Bluest Eye is a fantastic book, and you know, we don't want these books to go away. So please, if you can, do whatever you can to support them. So the next thing I wanted to mention is just a lovely gift that I got from a subscriber and commenter, Marsha Johansson. Now, I'm not trying to I don't want to bring this up just because I want to show off a gift, but because this is really thoughtful and sweet, and because these were made by another booktuber. Carolyn Marie Reads is the channel. I will link it down below. She has an Etsy shop. So the first one is this image of Kurt Vonnegut, who is one of my favorite authors. And it's just really sweet, has quotes from Slaughterhouse-Five surrounding him, and I am so excited to have this. I really love it, and I need to clear up some space on my desk so I can figure out, or I need to figure out where I'm going to put it, but this is something that I'm going to be really happy to have in my library. The other one is this artist's rendition of Call Me By Your Name by Andre Alsman, which is one of my favorite books. And again, I can't wait to find a place to put this in the library. Just since I've been congested and sick all week, I haven't managed to do it. So these are really cute. And the other reason I wanted to mention this is not just because a booktuber made these, but you know, we are heading into the holidays. And I know a lot of people don't want to think about that yet, but if you need bookish gifts for people, how perfect would these be? There are so many other items that you could find in the Etsy shop for Carolyn Marie Reads. I will link it down below, because how perfect would these be? Or some of the many variations on these that she has for just fun bookish gift ideas. I'm actually thinking there's a spot on the wall right here where I could see this all the time. You wouldn't see it, but I would, and that might actually be perfect. So I just need, once my head clears, I'm going to figure out where these are going to go in my library, and that will be fun. So if you need a bookish gift idea for the holidays, check out that Etsy shop. I will link it down below. I will also link her channel, and thank you again to Marcia Johansson for sending them, because that is so thoughtful and lovely and perfectly attuned to fun bookish things that I love. So thank you. I will also say, if you are looking for bookish gift ideas for the holidays, I got a really good one from Jen the Librarian. I will also link her channel and the video in particular where she discusses this book down below, because she went through a bunch of LGBTQ plus books that she has recently discovered. And one of them is a book that she mentioned in that is Museum Bums, which is just absolutely delightful. I immediately ordered a copy as a gift that I can give to my sister for Christmas. Hopefully my sister's not watching this video. I don't think she watches my channel. She knows I have one, but I don't think she watches it. So hopefully she's not watching this, because if she is, that's really going to spoil this. But I definitely immediately ordered this for my sister because it just seems perfect. She loves taking her daughters to museums, and they always giggle over the museum statue butts or painting butts and things like that. So Museum Bums, how perfect. And I remember seeing in the comments that somebody else had ordered a bunch of them as Christmas gifts. So this is available in the United States as well. They also have like calendar versions of it. So if you don't want a book, you can get a calendar. Yeah, I went with the book. But another really fun bookish gift idea for the holidays if you need one. So let's just transition into the Friday Reads section of this video and try to keep this relatively short. Let's talk about the book that I finished this week. You could probably guess if you saw my last Friday Reads video. I finished Rabbit Run by John Updike. And I had been really wanting to give this book the benefit of the doubt. I hated this for the first 100 pages, and then it kind of, it's not that it really got better, it's that it stopped being so abjectly offensive for a bit of a lull in the middle, and then it really came roaring back at the end. But throughout, I kept giving this book the benefit of the doubt and saying, you know what? I'm going to see where it goes. I'm going to wait. I'm going to see what the book does. And maybe it won't be as bad as I think it will be. Because I was very reluctant to read John Updike. And for anyone who's new here, I will explain how I ended up here. Part of me always felt that I should read a John Updike book as a sort of literary completionist thing. Because for much of my life, John Updike has been lauded as one of the American literary, just pillars of the American literary community. And people were obsessed with him and his work, and particularly the Rabbit books. So it felt like a gaping hole in my reading that I had not read any of his books. However, I have heard a lot of complaints that his writing is very misogynistic and not nice toward women and things like that, that made me very hesitant to read him. And a lot of those complaints are particularly lobbed against the Rabbit books. The reason so I felt like I needed to read him just because it felt like a hole in my reading that I hadn't read a John Updike book. But also, I'm doing this Pulitzer Prize project where I am reading every book that has won a Pulitzer Prize for fiction. And one of my arbitrary rules that I have set for myself is that if a book that is a sequel wins a Pulitzer Prize, I should at least try to read all of the books that came before it in the series so I can have a sense of what the Pulitzer board or Pulitzer jury would have, there's a sense of accumulation when a book that is part of a series wins. So the unfortunate thing is John Updike is one of 4 people who have won 2 Pulitzer Prizes for fiction, and both of his Pulitzer Prizes were for the last 2 books in the 4-book Rabbit series. So not only do I feel like I have to read John Updike books as part of my Pulitzer Prize project, but I have to read 4 John Updike books, and this is the first book in that series. And It's a mess. It's a mess. So if you're unfamiliar, this follows Harry Angstrom, who's nicknamed Rabbit, from when he was a high school basketball player. For some reason, when people mentioned this book before, they mentioned that all I heard was former basketball player, and I assumed that meant like NBA. So when I started this book and realized he was a former high school basketball player, I was very surprised. And that does emphasize the sense that he is one of those people who peaked early in life in high school. And now he's an adult and he's really struggling to adapt to life. And he sort of has that Trump voter, stereotypical Trump voter logic where he approaches the world as someone who has been told that the world belongs to him. And now all of a sudden the world is, things are difficult. You have to work for things. And wait a minute, I thought everything should just be given to me. And I don't like this. So that's kind of his attitude. And of course, John Updike is writing this as a bit of a critique about where America and the world was. This was published in 1960. And it's just, I tried so hard to give this book the benefit of the doubt, and it's so bad. I threw this book when I finished it. I did. It had been a long time since I threw a book in frustration when I finished it. I believe the last one was Edinburgh by Alexander Chee, and you can kind of see this is where the book landed. It has a little bit of a divot in the cover, which might make things difficult because since this is not a Pulitzer book, I'm not obligated to keep this copy, and I feel like I want to exorcise it from my house like it was a demon because I hate it that much. So I threw it, and the second it left my hands, it occurred to me, oh no, the resale value. But it'll be fine. It'll be fine. Where do I begin? I don't know. So the thing that gave me strength was that I was doing this as a buddy read. And I have not been doing buddy reads this year. But I figured this was the only way I was going to get through John Updike. With Danny, who is that bookish bear on Instagram. And he hated it as much as I did, thank goodness, because we were able to really complain about this. And we started referring to John Updike as John, just because I know that's something that would really irritate John Updike. So those little petty things really helped me get through this book and power through during, a difficult reading time, because my reading has been very off lately in the month of September because we lost a dog at the end of August. And I'm really struggling to get on the reading bandwagon again. It's very understandable, but so there was a weird push and pull here where because I was hating this book, I was almost pulled along with it to go further. And so that in a way it was helpful toward my reading, but in a way it also repelled me and made it a little more difficult. So interesting push-pull dynamic there. So Harry, in the beginning, is walking home from work. He has a job basically doing like an infomercial thing, but these are the days before infomercials. So he sells the Magipeel peeler, a kitchen gadget, and he's not satisfied. He joins in this pickup basketball game that little children are playing. He gets home and his wife Janice is drunk and he's just a horrible person to her and she's not that great to him. And she has left their kid at her parents' house, but the car is at his parents' house, or vice versa. I don't remember which. The car is at one of their parents' house and the kid is at the other parents' house. So he needs to go to both houses, walk to one of them, either walk and pick up the kid and then walk to pick up the car, or get the car and then drive to pick up the kid. And what he ends up doing is just getting in the car and driving. So right away we get our first instance of Rabbit running. He just drives off, but he's an idiot. And so much of the first 50 pages of this are spent on directions. It's like, who taught John Updike about a road map? And he just decided to use those directions as like very thorough explanations of the turns and the highways that Rabbit finds himself on. And it's not necessary at all. And weird generalizations about America that people apparently love but don't actually make sense at all. So Rabbit quickly realizes he doesn't know where he's going. He gets kind of turned around. He doesn't feel like he fits in, and that's meant as a generalization on America. He's like, I don't fit in here. Is this like what America is? It's like, no, you're in a small town you've never been in before. Like, he looks at the license plates. He's like, they all have different license plates from me. I don't belong here. Anyway, he ends up driving back to his town, but instead of going to his town, he goes to the neighboring one. And he meets up with a prostitute, and he sexually assaults her, and it's awful. And yeah, his wife is like 9 months pregnant, getting ready to have a baby. There will be some spoilers for the end of the book, so maybe skip to the next book if you don't want spoilers for it. But basically, this book is John Updike complaining about the state of America at the time, and in particular, how people were moving away from the institution of religion. And I mentioned this last week, but there's really no understanding of the damage that religion has done to people. There is a character in here who is a sort of preacher, and he's a bit of a buffoon, but that's not really, nothing is really commented on. This is presented just without commentary, which is, it can be fine. However, in this case, I don't think it really works. And it reminds me of the paradox where Norman Lear wrote All in the Family as a critique of people like Archie Bunker, and yet people who are like Archie Bunker would watch the show and think that Archie Bunker was a hero, because there's nothing telling them this man is a buffoon. And that is kind of what's happening here as well. But anyway, so it's a critique of people moving away from religion, and the institution of marriage is also crumbling. And I gave this book so much benefit of the doubt. And at the end of the day, it's just John Updike saying, you know what happens when people move away from the church and don't take marriage seriously? Babies die. Babies die, and it's tragic. And just, I can't. I really, really can't. Now I'm worried about the resale value. No, it's fine. It's fine. Yeah, I just really hate it. And I looked up the plot description of the next book in the series, Rabbit Redux, and it sounds ludicrous. So Janice, Harry's wife, leaves him for a Greek man, and he ends up starting a commune in his house. And of course, John Updike, from what I've heard, was not thrilled with the social changes that were happening in the 60s, so he ended up returning to the Rabbit series to write a critique of it. And Harry, being an idiot and an entitled person who starts a commune, I'm sure plays in with that. It sounds so ludicrous. I don't know if I have the will for that book, and I don't have to read it because it's not a Pulitzer winner, but I do feel like it could still be helpful. So I don't know. I definitely need a break. Danny did say that he would be willing to read Rabbit Redux with me at some point. I think we both need a break. So maybe I'll do Rabbit Redux, but I'm not thrilled about it. It's awful. It's just, this one was awful. I've heard the most bad things about the second book in the series, which is Rabbit Redux. So I'm not looking forward to that at all. Not looking forward to it one bit. And then, of course, I'll probably have to read the last two books, or at least attempt them. If I am really not liking a book, I'm going to allow myself to DNF. I already did that with Gone with the Wind in my Pulitzer series, but yeah, it's this was really not a great experience, and it confirmed all my worst fears about John Updike. Just absolutely, absolutely terrible. So that's what I read, and I actually finished Rabbit Run, which is lying on the floor, thinking about what it's done, I hope, a couple of days ago, and I really haven't been able to pick up anything else because that's when I got sick. So I have been trying to read Interpretive Maladies, but I haven't really started because I have already read this, and I really want to reread it. I was hoping to do a Pulitzer deep dive on Interpretive Maladies, timed to the release of Roman Stories, which I read recently, and it's fantastic. I just really haven't been in the headspace to pick up a book because I haven't been feeling well, because, all these weird, lingering sort of grieving brain things. So that is probably going to be what I was also looking, because I needed something happy after Rabbit Run. And it turns out most of the physical books that I have are serious or depressing. So I don't really have much escapist literature in print, and that's a bit of a problem. Most of the more escapist, happy vibe things I do are on audio, and I'm really struggling with audio right now, which is new and unique and weird because usually that's my best escape, but I'm just having a focus problem with audio. I did make a lot of progress on Bookshops and Bonedust, though. Joel and I listened to it when we went to Spokane last weekend, and got a huge chunk of the book done on the drive over and on the drive back. We have about an hour left that we need to do, and I am enjoying this book. We just have that hour left. Hopefully I can get it in the month of September. So if I do, because my numbers for September are awful, but it is what it is. It's been not a great month, all things considered. And so it is what it is. But yeah, we did make a good chunk of progress. I am enjoying it, but I'm not done. So I'll hold off on talking about it until I am done. And then I'm probably going to try Interpretive Melodies once the fog clears. So that's everything that's been going on. I think I'm going to leave it at that this week and let myself rest a little bit. I'd love to hear what you've been up to. Oh, Bake Off is back. I'm really excited about that. We haven't watched the first episode of the new season yet, but it's back. That's really exciting. But I would love to hear what you've been up to this week, what you've been reading, watching, loving, hating, all of that in the comment section down below. As always, I really appreciate your time, and I will be back. Until next time, happy reading.